Christmas. We all know that feeling, don't we? The warm lights, the songs you know by heart, this general vibe of peace and goodwill. It's a really comfortable, cozy story we tell ourselves every single year. But what if the whole point of it isn't to be comfortable? What if it's meant to be the single most disruptive event in all of human history?
Okay, let's really dive into this, because this right here is the central claim we're going to explore. The story of Christmas. See, it doesn't present itself like some heartwarming fable or a myth from long ago. It presents itself as a historical report. And that one little distinction, it changes absolutely everything.
So let's start by unpacking that huge claim. To really get why the Christmas story is so unique, we've first got to understand the massive difference between the kind of truth our culture talks about and the kind of truth the Christian faith says it's built on. I mean, we live in an age where truth is often treated like a personal preference, right? It's all about what works for you. You have your truth, I have my truth. It's like your favorite kind of coffee or your taste in music. But the claims made at Christmas, they just do not fit in that box. They weren't presented as a cool philosophy that might work for some people. They were presented as events that actually literally happened.
And this is where it gets really interesting when you see it laid out like this. Myths are kind of timeless. They start with once upon a time. But the Christmas story, it's specifically grounded in real history. It names names like the Emperor Caesar Augustus. Myths are personal and are there to teach a moral. Christianity reports an event. And this highlights the biggest difference of all. You can't really prove a myth is false, but a historical claim? Whoa, that can be investigated, it can be tested, it's falsifiable.
So the whole point is that Christianity is making what's called an objective truth claim. And all that means is that it's claiming to be true whether you believe it or not, whether it feels good to you or not, or whether it works for you or not. The claim is that God physically entered human history in a specific place at a specific time. It's presented as a fact of the universe, just like gravity.
And this is where the stakes get incredibly high. Because by grounding itself in testable history, Christianity makes itself, in a way, uniquely fragile. I mean, think about it. If you could somehow prove that Jesus never existed or that the resurrection never happened, the whole thing just falls apart. There's no plan B where it just becomes a nice collection of moral teachings. But the flip side is just as staggering. If those claims are true, then they're true for everyone, everywhere. Which, of course, leads to a massive question. If there is a God who created everything, why on earth would he choose to enter our world in such a vulnerable, messy way? I mean, why not just send a book of rules or, a bolt of lightning? Well, the answer seems to lie in the difference between knowing about someone and actually knowing them. You see, for centuries, people have seen clues, what some call general revelation, of God in the world all around us. A universe that runs on consistent, rational laws? Well, that suggests a rational mind is behind it. The fact that science now agrees that our universe had a definite beginning, the Big Bang, points to a beginner. And the fact that we all seem to have this deep-down sense of right and wrong, this objective moral law, well, that suggests there must be a moral lawgiver. But here's the thing. These clues only get you so far. This analogy just nails it. Seeing footprints in the sand is powerful proof that someone was on the beach, but it doesn't tell you their name, what they're like, or what they might want to say to you. These clues show that a creator likely exists, but they don't reveal his personal character. And this gets right to the heart of the why. You can learn a ton about an author by reading all of their books, but it will never, ever be the same as actually sitting down and having a conversation with them. God didn't just want us to have information about him. He wanted us to be able to know him. And for that to happen, he had to speak a language we could actually understand. And that language was a human life. In the person of Jesus, the infinite, complex character of God, his love, his passion for justice, his deep, deep mercy was translated into a form that we, as finite humans, could finally begin to comprehend. The incarnation wasn't just some random miracle. It was a profound act of communication. Okay, so for any modern person listening to this whole idea probably raises some pretty big red flags. I get it. An event like this seems to fly in the face of everything we think we know about the world. So let's tackle a couple of the most common and toughest objections head on.
This is probably the biggest one, right? We live in a scientific age. We understand the laws of nature. So the idea of a virgin birth or a star guiding people, it just sounds impossible. It sounds like something straight out of a fairy tale. So, the philosophy that's often hiding behind this objection is something called logical positivism. It's basically the idea that if you can't prove it in a lab, it's not real knowledge. But here's the catch. That statement itself is a philosophical claim, not a scientific one. You can't use science to prove that only science can determine truth. It's a self-refuting idea. Look, science is an incredibly powerful tool. It's brilliant at explaining the normal operations of the universe, the how. It's all about measuring the patterns and laws inside the system. But it's just not equipped to answer questions of meaning and purpose, the why. And it certainly can't make a ruling on the existence of a lawgiver who stands outside the system and who created the laws in the first place. To say the creator of the universe can't intervene in his own creation is kind of like saying a novelist can't write a surprise twist into their own book. Okay, the second big objection goes after the source material itself. The argument goes something like this. The stories about Jesus were written so long after he lived that they must just be legends that got embellished over time. You know, like a game of historical telephone, where the story just gets more and more fantastic. The counterclaim, though, is that the Gospels aren't written like myths. They present themselves as historical accounts based on eyewitness testimony. They're packed with specific names, real locations, and cultural details that historians can actually check. The argument is that they should be put through the same ringer, the same critical analysis as any other ancient text, from historians like Tacitus or Josephus. And when you actually examine what those accounts say Jesus claimed about himself, you run into this profound challenge, which was famously summed up by C.S. Lewis. You see, the comfortable, modern idea that Jesus was simply a good moral teacher just isn't an option once you really listen to what he said. Lewis breaks it down with this powerful bit of logic he called the trilemma. It goes like this. Jesus claimed to forgive sins. He claimed to be the way, the truth, and the life. These are claims of divinity. So, step 2, this claim was either true or false. If it was false, then he wasn't a good teacher. He was either a manipulative liar or a total lunatic, on par with someone who thinks they're a poached egg. But if it was true, then he is Lord. The one thing we can't do, Lewis argues, is to just pat him on the head and call him a good teacher. So if we actually take this claim seriously, the claim that Christmas is a real historical event and not just a myth, what does that actually mean for us today? How does it change the way we see the world? Well, the implications are absolutely massive. It means that God isn't some distant, impersonal force, but a personal being who cares enough to get involved. It means he didn't stay separate from our pain, but entered directly into all of our human suffering and messiness. It means that truth isn't just a set of ideas we invent, but a person we can actually know. And maybe most importantly, it means our deepest hopes are not based on some vague philosophy, but on a real person who acted in real history. When you really think about it this way, the incarnation becomes the single most important moment in all of time. It's the hinge on which the entire door of human history swings. It really is that shocking plot twist where the author of the whole story writes himself into the script as a character to save the other characters. And what this all means, ultimately, is that our understanding of faith gets completely transformed. The claim of Christmas is that Christian faith isn't a blind leap into the dark. It's not just wishful thinking. Instead, it's a step into the light of a real historical event, trusting a person who proved who he was in actual space and time. So, as we wrap this up, the challenge that Christmas presents to every single one of us, it isn't whether we find it to be a good story or a comforting one. The real question, the one that truly changes everything, is whether or not it's a true one.